Hey there, everybody. My software says it's showtime, so it must be showtime. I'm Thomas Michaud, and this is Real Guitar Live. I'm going to do my best to answer all your guitar-related questions. Please feel free to put a question in the chat at any time. I'm starting with the question from Mary. I've learned to play a simple melody on guitar using individual notes. What's the process for adding chords to enrich the song? Specifically, how can I determine which chords will complement the melody while also making it easier to finger the notes and the chords? So great question. In summary, how do you put chords to a melody? And it could be a melody that, in Mary's case, she has the piano sheet music but no chords, so she's just singing the melody on the sheet music. But if this could apply if you're making up a melody also, composing a melody. So I'll try and give you a step-by-step process. Of course, in reality, it's never quite this neat. It's seldom even close, but it does help to have a framework. To start with, the first thing you want to do is identify the key, figure out what key that you're in. And I'm going to use a simple melody that I just recently created for my students in Real Guitar Success. With chords. So I'll use this to kind of demonstrate as we go along. Here's the melody. Simple enough. Now, I want to know the key to this. And one of the ways, there's a lot of different ways to do that. And of course, I could spend at least a whole session on identifying keys. But I'll give you some tips in this session. One thing you can do is I'm listening to hear what sounds like the home note. That sounds like home, sounds like it rests. That note is a G, open G string. So another way I can do this is start looking at the melody notes and see if they form a scale. Part of a scale. And that could be part of the G scale. And another thing, if you're looking at sheet music, you can look and see what's the last note in the sheet music. That often is the name of the note is the name of the key. That won't help us here, huh? We're kind of doing this by ear. I don't have the written down notes. And of course, if you have sheet music, look at the key signature in the beginning. That is, it's going to tell you what key it's in. You have to decide if it's major or minor, because the key signature could be major or minor. But once you play the melody, you can usually hear pretty quickly if it's a major or minor melody. And you're looking for patterns that suggest a key, like the scale is one of those patterns. That actually is notes right out of the G pentatonic scale. So that's a key indicator. A key indicator of what key it's in. Unintended play on words. I'm listening and see if this one's in key of G. I can put all that together. By the way, I have another system. If you're listening to music, usually I try to find the bass note that indicates the home key, and that's a system. I'll put a link in the show notes if you want to get more details on that. So we've got the key of G now, and I'm thinking to myself, I know the main chords in the key of G. Let me just play all the chords in the key of G. Diatonic chords, meaning the chords that naturally fall using the notes from the key of G. That's going to be a G, A minor, 2 is minor, B minor. Now we've got C, that's going to be major, the 4 chord. 5 chord is D. E, is the 6th chord, E minor 6, F sharp diminished, and then that's the 7th chord, and then G. Okay, so those are the chords I want to start off with. And I'm going to focus in on the 1, 4, and 5. Those are the strong chords in the key. G in this case, C, D. I can always fill in some other chords with other notes. So I've got those are all right out of the ends on G and C, B. So I'm looking where the notes fall on the strong beats. The B is on a strong beat. Da, da. And so it's the G. Sounds like a G chord to me. Sounds like that would be a good chord. By the way, there is no absolute right or wrong. I'm choosing to go with a G chord to start off with. I'm looking for notes that fall on the strong beats throughout the melody. That's a C note. This is the next measure. I generally try to, if I see the melody, I'm looking at individual measures because I generally want to at least start with a chord kind of at the beginning of each measure. So I've got G. And that's twice. So I'm going to play G twice. And then the next melody phrase. So that's not quite G. I can hear it. It ends on the D. Could fit G, but starts on the strong beat on the C. Let's try a C chord. Yeah, right? You can tell that fits. Could be A minor though. A minor has a C. Either would work. I'm going to go with a C for now. Then the next phrase is. So those notes are D, C, B, C. So the strong beat is a D. Yeah, D chord could work there. Also the B minor. I'll go with the D, and then starting on the C, again, strong beat. Strong beats in 4/4 time are the 1 and the 3 are the strongest beats. And generally speaking, whenever there's a downbeat, that's stronger than the upbeat. So I'm going to go with a D for that. And end on G. So D. And then when I hit the C note, I'm going to C. And then I keep going down to this note, the D, open D. And I'll play G there. So I'm choosing the very 1, 4, 5, the very simplest chords I can for this tune. This is what we got so far. Back to G. Okay. Now, what I've done is I've homed in, and that was already jumping into step number 3. I've homed in on the simplest harmonic movement I could, which was the 1, 4, and 5 chords. I might want to expand that later and add some other chords to cover some of the offbeats, but we'll get to that. The other thing I'm often looking for, this is a very simple tune, but in a more complex tune, I might be listening for a common progression. And common chord progressions, once you got a handful, you can figure out a lot of harmonies for songs just by using those common progressions. And if it doesn't fit the whole tune, it can fit a good chunk of the tune. Often you might want to use that for the chorus and something different for the verses. I check to see if the melody notes I'm playing, like I was doing, is actually outlining any of the chords as it's playing down, particularly if it's some type of arpeggio. Now I'm going to consider how my fingering is with the chords. So I can play a G chord in a number of different places. A little off tune there. Okay, I'll tune it in a minute. I generally want to, if I can, for at least this style of music, folky, country, pop rock, stay in the open position because it's fuller. If I was playing more jazzy, I might want to move up, moving chords up the neck and play partial chords. But I'm going to start with a full G and see if I can finger that chord and play the melody. So I can figure that melody if I take my fingers off the chord. If I wanted that bass note to ring more, I could leave that third finger there. Same thing for the C chord, to let the bass note sustain. In this case, I'm using finger picking. I'm using a pick, not finger picking. But if I was using finger picking, I could create some motion. So I'm playing other notes out of the chord. I was also harmonizing the melody right here, just playing notes right out of the chord. So I'm keeping the chord form. That's the melody. And I'm playing with my thumb another note. I'm just playing the C bass note. This is the third of the chord, this E. There we go. Enhances the melody. Sometimes it can clutter things up. You have to make choices. Now, on to the last few steps. Once you got the chords and the melody, you want to go through each of the chords and see how the fingering works with the melody notes. That D is going to work fine. And I've already got the C note there in the top of my C. So I'm good. If you need to, you might have to reform the chord, or you can also play part of the chord. So for the C, I could do this. I'm not playing the bass note of the chord as I'm playing the melody. I like that a little better. Interesting. I just added a harmony to that melody. I'm playing the open G string, 2 open strings, then to the next 2 strings, 4 and 3, and open, which are part of the G chord. So experimenting is a part of the game. This is, of course, how you make it sound like something that you arrange as opposed to some standard arrangement. And you'll continue to go through each of the chords and see how they sound. In this case, because of the style, I might not want to add a harmony. Let me see how it sounds. It sounds okay, huh? Not too cluttered. Depending on the style, you might want it busier or not busier. Once you've done that, you might want to go through and start adding some other chords. Like you can change some of the chords to a 7th chord and see how that fits. So I could play this. I could make it a G7. Let's make this a C7. It's just different. It doesn't sound that folky style anymore. It sounds like some kind of maybe new age or pop tune. That's a C9. Different feel. Another interesting chord that I can often fit in somewhere is suspended chords. I think I might want to use it. I suspended on that D chord, so. Okay, different feel, huh? Not quite as folksy, more pop sounding. 7th chords and suspended 4 chords are the first bed I usually go to enhance the chording of a song. And the 7th chord often, the dominant 7th chord often works. So in this case, the D could have been a D7. Because the 5 chord key often sounds good as the 7th chord. It has a little more power to get back to the root. But again, depends on the style and what you're actually looking for. So ultimately, the key is to experiment and see what fits. Once you've gotten the main chords, if you want to add more chords to your melody, start looking to the other chords in the key and see if any of the off beats could benefit by adding one of those other chords. Often I'll find just 1 or 2 places where I can fit that in. And again, you have to balance between being too busy or too cluttered and that and making it interesting enough. That's always a key. And you get to be the final judgment of that. Okay, so feel free to ask questions about this. I've completed what I have on my presentation, on my notes. And if you think of any other questions, I'd really appreciate if you start with the word question. I have a lot of comments and it's hard for me to see which is a question, which is a comment. I'm going to go on to the next question here, which is from Larry. You wrote Latin at dusk arpeggio and Spanish interlude. What is the inspiration to dream up something like these? Do you get direct inspiration, or do you typically hear other people's music and adapt sections of it to your own work? Well, both, actually. Those 2 are exercises that I composed, and I do compose a lot of exercises. So I might hear even a pop tune and take part of it and maybe adjust it. Often when I'm making exercises, I'm thinking, how can I make this a little more accessible for students? Because when people are playing guitar, they get certain ways of playing that work for them, but not necessarily as easy for other people to play. They've just been doing it for so long. And it's not good or bad. It makes their style. And I'll listen to a pop tune and I'll pick a part that really sounds good and I'll maybe adjust it so it's a little easier for more people to play it without the idiosyncrasies of that particular artist. And that makes it more useful, not only for students, but to be able to use it in more situations. In this particular case, these 2 exercises are kind of derivatives of a composition that I wrote called Latin at Dusk. And that's on my first CD. I remember coming up with that tune. I was sitting out at the beach in the water, watching the sun go down over the the Bay, in the San Francisco Bay, and playing with my guitar. And often that's how inspiration comes with me. I'll be someplace that I consider inspirational and just play my guitar. I'll practice things and just invent things and experiment. And then I try to save what I like. If I think I got something I really want to remember, I'll pull out my iPhone and record it, because as much as I think I'm going to remember it later, I often don't. I've gotten inspiration from dreams a lot. I remember one of my most popular tunes, Sevilla. I was in Spain and had a dream at night. I was listening to the song on a CD player and I was really enjoying it. And I remember thinking in my dream, hey, wait, I haven't written that song yet. And when I woke up, I ran in the bathroom, so I didn't wake up my partner, and pull out my recording device and tried to record the best I could what I heard in my dream. And I, of course, worked it and fleshed it out in the studio later on. Yeah, I think that covers it. It's often a combination. One of the things I've learned to do is when I get even little bits of inspiration is to record it and not pretend I'm going to remember it later, because I know better now. And it's not just age. I was same when I was younger. It's so clear when I first come up with it, but then 2 days later, I just can't get a hold on it. And then I'll put pieces together. I'll have recordings of lots of little pieces of songs, and I'll hear that one fits together with that. And then I'll start playing with it and add some more to it. That's probably the main technique I use for writing music. Sometimes I will come up with a chord progression and sometimes with a melody first. And then I'll flesh out the chords and vice versa. If I come up with a chord progression, I'll start adding a melody. And then I'll often combine two approaches like that into one song. So part of a melody I got, and then part of a chord progression I got, I'll add a melody and find that that's a good verse and that makes a good chorus. Okay, I can't think of anything else to say about that right now, but feel free to ask more questions. I'm going to go over to the chat, start going down the list for questions. And if you think of a question and you forgot the right question, I miss it, don't worry, just add it again later. I really do want to answer your questions, but I sometimes can't read fast enough. And the first question here, which because it's first, I see it, even though it doesn't have the word question. It says, do you stream every Thursday, the first Thursday of the month? And yes, that's exactly what I do. The first Thursday of the month. Question. I'm looking for the word question. Oh, there we are. Couldn't scroll down. Hey, Paul Simon apparently gets a lot of ideas from his dreams and writes it down and records it. Very good. Okay, looks like there's no direct questions for me to answer. I'm going to do the monthly drawing rather. And if you think of a question while I'm doing the drawing, please add it. I'll look over there before we close up for today. So each month I do a drawing for my students in Real Guitar Success. And all I ask is that they spend 10 minutes on each of the lessons for the day. Each day they get a lesson, each weekday. And at the end of the month, if they check off each lesson as they spend 10 minutes, decide if they want to go back and work on some more by adding it to their bookmark or favorites. And then they get entered in the drawing for a $50 Amazon gift card. And I put them in the hat, my other hat. Let's see what we got for today. The winner is Pat. Pat, you are going to get an Amazon gift card. Pat Rourke, congratulations. And good work, everyone who's completed all 20 sessions. This gives you a chance to be exposed to new material. You decide what you want to save to your favorites, and then you can come back and work on it later. The ones that don't really appeal to you, just let it go. But you'll find that over time, you'll collect ideas and things that you want to work on that you wouldn't have known if you didn't get a chance to go through each of these for 10 minutes. So thanks for playing along, Pat, and everybody who did. I'm going to check any last minute questions. Nothing for today. Looks like it's going to be a little short today. that's fine. Feel free to submit questions for the next Real Guitar Live. It'll be the first Thursday of next month. Boy, we're already into, it'll be April, huh? I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you for spending this time with me. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye for now.